Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining this week's FIT Forum webinar. My name is Cyril. I'm a project coordinator for the FIT Forum. I'm based in Beirut, where I follow the vehicle sharing project. And today I'm going to run you through the lessons that we have learned since this project started back in May 2022. Thank you very much for joining. I really invite you, some of you have already identified the chat, perfect, and the question and answer section is good because in a few minutes I will ask your input in the chat, and of course you can use the Q&A section for any points you want to raise, a question to ask during this presentation. I will run you through those slides for 20 minutes, and we will keep a moment at the end of the presentation for your question and answer. So I want to start with talking a bit about vocabulary. We use more and more those words about sharing, carpooling. I want to clarify that when we talk about ride sharing, we are trying to increase the occupancy rate of our vehicles, so having several more passengers using a single vehicle. This can be done at your agency level, at your project level, at your program level, at an office level, but it can also be done inter-agency, and that's the purpose of the project that I'm leading here in Lebanon. But we can also talk about carpooling, which is basically about putting in common assets from different agencies. So here we will mainly talk about assets, having the fleet of one agency made available to other agencies. And this is mainly an inter-agency type of project. Actually, this slide, I want to acknowledge that is taken from our colleagues from the UN Mobility Hub. And that would be my first message to you, regardless the organization you belong or the type of organization you belong to. There is a growing number of vehicle sharing, carpooling, ride sharing initiatives. So bear in mind that wherever you work, with whichever agency, there should be this opportunity. And of course, I will try to, of course, convince you about that in the coming 20 minutes. If it doesn't exist, it's really at your reach to start one. As an introduction, I also want to place where is carpooling and vehicle sharing in the typology of avoid, shift, improve. Avoid, shift, improve is an accepted typology that classifies by order of impact the different levels of action that we have at disposal to reduce the environmental footprint of transport and of our fleet. So the most important levers are in the avoid pillar. The most powerful levers, are in the avoid pillar, that really aims at reducing the number of trips that we are doing, reducing the number of kilometers we drive in total, reducing the size of our fleet. That's the most important leverage. It's followed by the shift leverage that really aims at, for the movement that we are doing, trying to move away from the sole passenger car tool that is today used as the silver bullet to any movement that we do, may it be to go to the airport, to go on our journey at the other side of the country. Moving from this sole individual cars solutions to potential solutions that are more efficient. So we'll have, of course, the use of public transport, depending on the countries, the soft mobility, walking more, using bicycle, scooters, all those elements, and of course, sharing the asset that we have at disposal between several agencies. The last pillar is the one of improvement, that is really capturing all the levers we have from the technology side of improving the efficiency of the transport mode. So here you have, for example, going electric. You have the use of alternative fuels or green fuels, but you have also the different type of engine technology, Euro 4, 5, 6, these references. Why it's important to frame this? First, this typology, you need to dominate it. It's more and more widespread now in the sector. You need to be aware of that. And if you're not yet, I will invite you to dig into it, because as fleet manager is going to be our future. Important to place carpooling and ride sharing here. You can see that it's among the two most powerful leverage of reduction of the footprint, but they are also the most complicated because we talk about actions that involve behavior change. And you will see that that's one important component and challenge of such a project. But bear in mind that they are among the most important leverage, and that's why the agencies are more and more exploring those ways and investing into those projects. Actually, the benefits of sharing are multiple. Of course, by sharing, we have a positive impact on cost and on efficiency because we reduce the number of vehicles on the road, so it mechanically reduces the costs that are involved by managing a fleet. It could be related to cost as well, but it's also save time for fleet managers, for all the back office work that is needed of managing a fleet. It reduces the duplication of effort that is ongoing today with each agency is managing its own fleet and sometimes very often actually going in the same direction. It also gains time on the transport planning. And linked to the security, there is less movement to be tracked when you have less vehicle on the road. So it also have an impact on the security. Linked to security, the safety, of course, reducing the vehicles, the number of vehicles on the road mechanically reduces the probability of having accidents. On the environmental side, having less vehicle on the road reduce, of course, the footprint of those vehicles, not only the CO2 equivalent, but the particulate matter. So here we really talk about the quality of the air that we are breathing, but also the noise and the infrastructures, negative externalities that are involved than the road network. Last but not least, one of the benefits of sharing that is often forgotten is the social benefit. In the case of our humanitarian aid sector, we are a lot talking about collaboration and coordination, and we need to bear in mind that sharing a ride is increasing our exchange opportunities between colleagues or staff from one same organization, but also from different agencies. So it's not to be forgotten as a benefit of sharing. Cost, time, environment, safety, social collaboration, as you can see, it matches almost exclusively all the responsibilities of a fleet manager. That we are here to make the fleet the most efficient possible, environmental friendly, and ensuring, of course, the safety of our colleagues and of our operations. I'm going to run you through a series of business case that has been developed since we have started the project of vehicle sharing between NGOs here in Lebanon. This first slide highlights that on time span of 6 months, 3 agencies have been sharing their movement plan, put their movement plan in common on one single route. That is, in this case, Beirut to Zarle on the 6 months period, the second semester of last year. And among those 3 agencies, same route journey, we identified that in total, they sum 420 trips, business as usual, not shared. When we look, when we filter those 420 trips, we filter them by the same departure time, we immediately see that we have a potential of reducing the trips. So we have common trips. 20% of the trips are potentially departing at the same time. So it's quite impressive to look at shared movement plan and identify that when you filter by departure time, you identify that 20% of the trip could actually be shared. Of course, when you increase the capacity of the vehicles that you are using on the same routes, and moving to a 10-seater minivan, you almost reach the 30% of trips that can be shared. So in very short, for this slide, the message I want to highlight is that if you start with another agency comparing your movement plan, you will be impressed by the number of trips that are concurrent, that are being run at the same time on the same route. by the other agencies. So you immediately identify your potential for vehicle sharing. And again, I insist on the fact that those numbers are immediately quite impressive. I'm talking only about 3 agencies on a 6 months period. Based on this finding, with the agencies that participate in the project, we have decided to rent a minivan. And this is the finding of the first month of utilization of the minivan between 4 agencies, because some new agencies have joined the project. And as you can see, there is an increase of cost linked to renting a different asset, namely a minivan. But the fact that we are sharing the cost between 4 agencies makes drop the cost per agency. So basically, what I want to highlight with this business case is that once you have identified opportunity for sharing, you might have the need to invest in different type of resources, but the return on investment of this rental, in that case of this minivan, has quite impressive cost reduction opportunities. Here, it's quite impressive to see that we can reduce by 65% the cost per trip by only sharing a bigger asset between 4 agencies. And the last business case I want to highlight for you is very fresh. We just published it. It's been a review of the performance of the project on the January to July period this year. As you can see, I guess you can see my pointer. In total, those now 7 agencies that participate in the project, in their business as usual, they share their movement plan as it is, and this sums up almost 1,000 trips on the different routes that we are using. Among those 949 trips, 73 were actually shared. This is what is represented in this 8%. So 949 trips, 70 trips that are shared. We have 8% of the whole volume of trips that has been actually shared between the agencies. It can look small to some, big to others. I leave you judge on this point. And what you have highlighted here in orange is basically the missed opportunity. So what we have done out of these 940 trips, we have filtered them by the trips that could be departing in the same 30-minute time span. So basically, by modifying slightly your journey planning, you could have 16 more % of the trips that could be shared. Also to identify that you have, by modifying your journey planning and trying to set the vehicle sharing as business as usual, for example, fixing the departure time, reallocating your assets on a different location, you can have very low-hanging fruit and quite impressive savings, because when we sum the 16% plus 8%, so we have basically 25% of the trips that are acknowledged by the agencies that can potentially be shared without a lot of effort. So this 25% saving has natural consequence on the financial savings, reducing by 25% your cost, but also your CO2 emissions. So the message here is that by slightly modifying your habits, by trying to set the vehicle sharing as a business as usual modality with your users, you can have quite some sharing potential increase. This is the moment when I want you to use the chat. The question I want to ask you is that what, and I will give you a minute for that, what, based out of this first lesson that are drawn, that you have just seen, what would refrain you from engaging in vehicle sharing? I have some examples here that can be the lack of time, the complexity of the operation that you are managing, the context you are running in, the change management that it might involve from your side. Of course, share as you feel, being very straightforward. What would, in your opinion, refrain you from engaging into vehicle sharing? And I see that we are already some answers. We are talking about cultural resistance, absolutely. Simon, Other inputs? Go ahead, I should give you a few more seconds. The cost. The security. Yeah, exactly. Very good. The change management effort, second time. The types of activities, yeah, we all have like different activities. Complexity of operation. Absolutely, very good points. So what I propose now, out of this very relevant gut feeling that you have, I want to run you through what we have identified as the main challenges and their potential mitigation. In terms of challenges, we identified two overarching challenges. First is the involvement of the agencies, and here I'm focused mainly on the interagency vehicle sharing. Involvement of agencies, of course, I've mentioned before, and that's my reference to the avoid shifting improve, is that we are exploring those new modalities because we have taken some commitment to reduce costs and to reduce our environmental footprint. And so we are exploring. And to explore, we need people into action. What we face is that sometimes it's difficult to have the engagement of agencies because we are basically in an exploration mode, assessment mode. So we know what's the goal, but the road to achieve it is not always totally explicit. The mitigation to that is really to ensure that there is a commitment from your organization. It's also linked to the persons, to the individuals. So that's why I insist on the fact that you have a big responsibility and the capacity to engage into those projects. But also, it requires an alignment of willingness between the field, the senior management that is key in managing the change management of users. We'll go into that, but also the global level that need to have its policies feeded by action. The second element that is very important is that when we talk about vehicle and vehicle sharing, we tend to think this is a logistic topic. So it's for the logistician, it's for the fleet manager, but the mobility of our people is directly touching our model of operation, our model of managing our project. So modifying the model of operation requires more than just logistics department. It requires a very holistic approach. That's why the involvement of senior management, the other department, is very important to have those projects running. In that sense, car sharing is way beyond the sole responsibility of logistics, of delivering a service. It goes way beyond that, and it requires involvement of many other stakeholders in one organization. Going a little more into details, of course, you have highlighted it very rightly. For such project, we face a reluctance to change. That's why it's important to communicate, to build business case, to explain the why to the users. Why are we doing that? What are the objectives? To publicize the benefits of the solution. That's a very important element because they might not always be understanding the why we are doing that. The project silo approach really involves that, oh, it's my project, it's my budget, so it's my car, so I do whatever I want with it. And we need to gently move away from those notions. Another barrier that we usually encounter is in terms of accountability. Agency might say, oh, but I'm financed by a donor, you are financed by another one. How can I justify that my car is going to be transporting people from another project on an agency? Well, first element here, we are meant to do the best use of the resources as possible. All the money that we are saving on support costs are to be allocated to program costs or to our beneficiaries. And as logisticians, we have a responsibility here. On top of that, such projects generate savings. So cost savings is always eligible by donors, and actually they are very supportive to such initiative. As an illustration, the first phase of this project was supported by USAID BHA, and the current phase of this project is supported by ECHO. There is no barrier here. Actually, we need to learn and we need to share to modify a little the habits, and why not advocate for new ways of operating. You have mentioned, some of you, the safety and security. Of course, it's a very good point. Easy to tackle, because in the end, when you start benchmarking your safety and security procedure and process and rule, although we are all unique as agencies with our different flags, we are also having quite the same way of operating. And what's one of the lessons learned here in Lebanon is that in the end, we all have more or less the same security and safety protocols. On another set of challenge, the wait and see. The wait and see is one I really want to highlight, and is really linked about this exploration. We are we have a tendency between agencies to say, okay, I will see when this is running properly, and this is all clear and set, and I might engage at this moment. But we are exploring. So exploring means taking a risk. And of course, the more we are taking risks, the safer it is to be all together. And also, the faster we move towards our objective. So it's very important to highlight this and to engage agencies into action in those type of projects. A thing that is very linked to that is the spirit of solutionism in our sector. We have a tendency that we have a problem and we want like the immediate solution that is matching perfectly. In this case, I insist on that, we are exploring. We are exploring, we are trying to reduce our cost, to reduce our environmental footprint. So it's very important to be taken out of the pure solutionist safe mode of risk avoidance. We need to engage, to try to be into action and to learn from our failures. And this is actually what has allowed, after a year and almost a year and a half of operating this project, that allowed us to have 9 agencies on board and this number of trips shipped. Last but not least, and here I want really to make the link with the reluctance to change. Reluctance to change is, of course, something that touches the colleagues, the passengers, the users, but it's also valid for us as fleet manager, as logistician, because embedding such project into the way we operate our fleet is very new. As of today, we are used to manage our fleet in our institution, in our organization, but starting collaborating on a daily basis with other colleagues from other agencies requires quite some how do you say, like change into our habits. Also, trying to set vehicle sharing as a business as usual has an impact on the way we utilize and allocate our fleet. Lesson learned from the project here is that there is many movement that were departing from the capital to run to the last mile to access the beneficiary. And today, those vehicles that were based in the capital need to be relocated closer to the last mile. So the vehicle sharing movement are done between the intercity, and then the vehicles of the agency are available to access the agency beneficiary on the last mile. So it requires a change of mindset, but also a way of allocating our fleet. To go further, there is, so we have developed a vehicle sharing start guide for NGO. It's available on the knowledge platform of the Fleet Forum. If you type the keyword vehicle sharing carpooling on the knowledge platform of the Fleet Forum, you will find these materials. This goes in annex with a template of MOU with the minimum requirements that were made out of some benchmarking with the agency, standard operating procedure, question and answer document, but also some communication material, because behavior change is key and you need to have quite a sensitization plan, a communication plan. So there is some flyers, there is some videos that were made available. As of today, so we operate this project in Lebanon. It's continued for those of you that operate in Lebanon, or the organization that we work for operates in Lebanon. We invite you to join us. And we also recently started in Central Africa in a few weeks away. And those two projects, they are running in partnership with ULO, the recently founded cooperative, the logistic cooperative that we work at pooling resources. But again, out of the sole scope of NGOs, there is several initiatives. If you work for the UN agency in Lebanon, there is a carpooling project led by UNHCR, and I'm sure many of you know the UN Mobility Hub. So I want now, after this serious slide, that we dedicate the next 5 minutes to the question and answers. Are there some questions already? Have you used the Q&A? Okay. So I will publish the question. So you should be able to see them, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. It might be necessary to have modified insurance to reflect the fact one is carrying passengers from outside the operating organization. Yes, that's why in the beginning, what we have done on this project is that we did the benchmarking of what was the insurance policy coverage from the different participating agencies. With the specific thing that in this country, most of the agencies are renting their vehicles, so it was quite an easy match to identify that the coverage was quite similar and that it was covering the people regardless the organization they were belonging to. Actually, we also, you can see it in the MOU, we also removed the waiver of responsibility for the agencies that are participating. Another question that we have here from Herman, can you support the implementation of same initiatives or in other countries? Yeah, of course, contact us. You can have access to the materials that exist, that if it inspires you to start, but get in touch with us in the case you want to start that. We are happy to support. And actually, for me, it's a very positive message, this, and I invite everyone to start one. Another question that we have, will you start vehicle sharing project in other countries as well? So we started in Central African Republic, but it's up to you to be the next country. Again, I insist, as fleet manager, if we want to indent the way that we're going to be operating in the future, it's a big responsibility on you, so enter in action, start. We'll be happy to support. Insurance question is published. I think I have covered all the questions. It seems so, yes. Now, am I missing one? Other questions? I'm looking at the chat as well. Okay, because I see that there is comments on the cost sharing. So there is, as of today, as we target the volume, we are not sharing the cost. We are calculating and tracking the movement that we do, so we are able to do so. It's something that we're going to do. Actually, I want to acknowledge here the support of the UNHCR initiative here, that actually has shared their cost model calculation, the cost sharing model, and we will be inspired from that. We've learned a lot from their past experience. That's why also the purpose of this webinar is to feed you with the lesson learned. But we are working on the cost sharing model. It's something that we have to have in place also for obvious accountability reason, but also because some agencies might not have a fleet or have a limited fleet, and it's important that we are able to ventilate costs from the one that are operating the vehicles to the other. Am I missing more question? I think there is no more question. Translation in French, I'm not sure for those slides, but what I know as we are starting in Central African Republic, there will be material developed in French available on the Fleet Forum platform. Okay, I think I have covered all the questions. If not, I will make sure that after you get some answers. As a final slide, because we have 1 minute left, I really want to recap with highlighting the fact that your role as a fleet manager is really to ensure the efficiency of the management of the fleet. to reduce the environmental footprint, and of course to make sure that the safety of our colleagues and of operating the fleet is ensured. It's totally what is being proposed, and it's matching the vehicle sharing project, in a sense that with vehicle sharing, we reduce costs, we reduce footprint, and as we have less vehicle on the road, we also have a positive impact on road safety. So my last message to conclude here is we have business case. There are demonstrations that are made, that are available, and you can easily, by just joining another organization and comparing their movement plan, make those business case and see that there is opportunity for sharing. There is support material that exists. The biggest challenge is behavior change. So if you engage, make sure that you have the senior management and your global level on board, and don't underestimate this level. And last point that I want to highlight, there is no resources that are needed to start sharing a movement. Doesn't require extra resources. It's done with your current fleet, with your current resources. So you can start small, and we invite you to start small. So yeah, out of that, I want to ask the same question: what would refrain you from engaging into vehicle sharing? And I will leave that to your reflection in the coming period. We've hit the time already. I really want to thank you for attending this webinar today, and don't hesitate to reach out if you want some support on the topic. And again, please enter in action and start sharing. Thank you all. Thank you very much. See you.